Welcome to the Cycle Starters podcast. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and today we're diving deep into a conversation about authentic leadership and breaking free from copycat culture. I am thrilled to welcome Jennifer Nadia, a soul guide and embodiment practitioner whose work is transforming how we connect with our inner truth. Jennifer weaves together energetic transformation, somatic awareness, and plant spirit connection to guide people back to their authentic selves. Her approach is grounded in softness, sovereignty, and the wisdom of the body, something we desperately need in today's world of constant comparison and performative living. In this episode, we'll explore how to stop outsourcing our knowing and start leading from within. Jennifer will share insights on connecting with your inner truth, embracing sovereignty as a daily practice, and finding the courage to live authentically. Whether you're feeling stuck in someone else's version of success or simply yearning for a deeper connection to your own truth, this conversation will inspire you to remember who you really are. And before we get into today's conversation, I kindly ask that if you are loving this content we're creating here on the Cycle Starters podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, and share our show with your networks. It really helps the channel grow. So thank you in advance for that. So let's welcome Jennifer Nadia to the show. Hi, Jennifer.
Oh dear, thank you so much for having me here. I am honestly super excited to talk about this topic because it's very dear to my heart. And I also think that many people will feel super inspired by this. And I think that's why, yes, let's dive right in.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for saying yes to being a guest on the show. And thank you for saying yes to creating this experience for the Ancestral Healing Collective. So you have a workshop that you're going to be teaching in August, and we will be getting more into that later on in the conversation. But first, I want to start with your ancestral background. What can you share with us about your ancestry?
So much. I would say definitely in my family, I see myself as the keeper of the stories. I think already very early on, both my grandmothers shared quite a lot of their stories with me. And somehow or another, I also got to hear a lot of the different things that happened in their life. And I feel like in my family, I'm probably the only one who has that broader perspective of what is going on or has been going on. And it gave me this insight also what has happened for hundreds of years before that. The whole patterns that my ancestral lineage has been caught in. And I think it explains a lot of what I am here to do and what my task is, I would say. And that is sometimes, I think this is the beauty of that. And it's also the challenge in that, because if you have, it sometimes feels like, and I've seen it in meditations as well, that I have like hundreds upon hundreds of women behind me, especially women that are really like, we want to speak through you. And I also had to set a lot of boundaries with that because I realized some in my ancestral lineage, especially women who had really difficult, horrible things happening to them through men, desired kind of a rage, revenge culture. And I was like, I'm not here to do that. If you want to speak through me and work with me, we're going to do it in a different way. So that was quite a powerful stop this, I had to say. I think that was like 2 years ago. And yeah, and I feel like now it's become more soft, which I think is very much needed for everything that I put out there. Like this softness is crucial because I'm also here to teach or guide people to see that softness is such a powerful move instead of continuously pushing, which has been what my ancestors have been doing for thousands of years. I'm from Switzerland, so the Swiss culture has very much a work culture. They used to be farmers for many years, so it was always working hard, not really having a holiday. And I can definitely see that I am moving through this and working through this a lot. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. Well, so can you share with us a little bit about your journey to becoming the practitioner that you are today? How did this all begin for you?
This is a good question because I then directly would ask, when does anything ever begin? Where is the beginning of whatever? I definitely think probably before I was even born. And those things, I'm not aware about it. I think in my own life, I was already a bit different as a child than most of my peers, than my family, very much in tune with my fantasy world and more interested to be at home and read books instead of continuously talk to everyone or watch movies. Continued in teenage years where I also saw the world a little bit different than everyone else, and definitely had a big acceleration in my early 20s when I went traveling for a few years. And that was the first time I managed to tap out of those stories people have told me what I had to live. And really, first of all, here I'm like, whoa, there's actually a voice within me. And that voice within me is quite strong. It desires a lot of different things. And that then catapulted me to start or continue a different life path, my own way, I would say, which has been super different. I think since I was 23, that's like 14 years ago, I've not been having a continuous normal job. I've been doing a lot of temp jobs, or I was traveling a lot and started building my own business as well in that time. It's just because I realized that actually working for someone else doesn't fulfill me, because I don't see that the work environment we have nowadays is actually super healthy for our system. And I also think the medicine that I'm here to bring is I couldn't fulfill that while following some kind of job where someone tells me what to do, or follow some kind of system that is lying outside of myself. So probably in an accelerated way, I would say 6 years ago, that's when I started tapping more out of the system, started doing like loads and loads of courses at the same time. I literally did 3 courses at the same time. It was a bit maniac, but my being really desired that. It was like, I want to know it all right now and here. And that's what I did. Since then, I don't think I've lived my life the same way ever since. It's been continuously following the magic, following the trust, following whatever comes up. And I'm also lately very nomadic, because I've been told in a meditation in October that right now packing my bags is what is needed and not settling down. So I follow that guidance very much, which is the biggest change that probably has happened in my life, like following the intuition, following my inner guidance, following nature. I would say nature is what I follow as well.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. Well, so in terms of ancestral healing, I'm curious, when did that concept even enter your consciousness? Like, when did you realize patterns can be passed down through generations? And then specifically, when did you realize that we have the power, we can choose to start new cycles, right? We can break patterns and start new beautiful things in our lives for our families.
A gorgeous question, because I think in my subconsciousness it was always present, but in my consciousness it only happened 5 or 6 years ago, where I started doing a course to develop my psychic abilities. And compared to a lot of other people, it was very easy for me to speak to spirit animals, to speak to my ancestors, to have my ancestors pop up and give me plants and messages and everything. So it happened very rapidly once I opened up that door. And it was also quite easy. I remember standing in a room full of all of my ancestors and working through a lot of ancestral drama, like releasing some ancestors that have been stuck around for years and years, that were actually just desiring to go to the light. Remove is the wrong word, but it was what was done then. A lot of the ancestors that weren't serving my path in my life anymore, and that actually had been doing quite evil things, because also that is the reality. If we're not doing the ancestral work, that's what we're living with. We're having
Mhm.
people behind us that have done horrible things. So if I don't work through that and consciously say, for example, I'm not working with those, they will also influence my decisions and the way I speak. So that was the first work I did, was also, I would say, cleaning up and creating clarity, and really who are the ones that want to work with me or through me. And I had a few stepping forward. And I remember in that whole period of time, I had no idea about things. And I got guided to do a ritual by one of my ancestors. And later on, I realized that it was a cord cutting with candles, with a rope. I got guided with an ancestor to do that. I can't remember what kind of cord cutting I did, but I think it was also something to do with my ancestors, not with a physical person that was alive right in this moment. So for me, that was very interesting, being able to talk to my grandmother that died, being able to give messages to my mother. That is a very interesting thing because my mother is quite opposed to all of this work. She is
Mm.
carrying the witch wound quite strongly. So when I called her up and I was like, Mom, I have a message here from your mother. Do you want to hear it? I was also a bit afraid how she would react. And she did want to hear it. And she was very moved. And I then wrote those words on a postcard and sent it to her so she could hang it up. And that image is still hung up. So for me, I think that was one of the biggest breakthroughs, to be able to transmit a message like that to my mother and opening therefore the door for her to realize, because the words that were spoken from my grandmother, they were just so powerful, like really something that a soul only realizes after they have died. And that is what most daughters want to hear. These things that we can't say when we're alive. Or I mean, I hope I will be not that one that dies and has left out those words. But many people do. We die and we never tell the people we actually love that we love them or how much we care about them. So I think, yeah, that for me was a beautiful gift that I could gift to my mother.
Wow. I mean, you've just said so much there. That is a beautiful gift that you were able to give to your mother. I love that. And you mentioned a few things that I think are really important to highlight. Number one, as sacred space holders, unless we've done the ancestral healing work, it's not creating safety for the people that participate in those circles because we're not fully conscious of the energy that we're bringing into the circle. So, thank you for mentioning that. And also, I think most people don't realize that not all of our ancestors are healed and whole, right? So that's awesome that, you have this very, very strong connection to them. It seems like the veil is very, very thin for you. This is so awesome. But yeah, not all of them are in a healthy place. And when you spiritually bypass this deep ancestral work, you're bringing that into the spaces that you hold. So I really, have my doubts and questions about practitioners who are bypassing this work. Because I really feel that's what grounds you, right? It's what roots you in the work that we do. So thank you for sharing all of that. I appreciate that so much. I know you mentioned that there is this this thread of work, right? This work culture that has been woven into your ancestry. What are some of the other patterns that you feel like you are breaking in this lifetime? And is work one of them? I know you mentioned it as a collective wound, maybe, right? Overworking, perhaps, but what would you say are the patterns you're breaking?
Definitely, the work is a huge and massive one, and I think that is one that I'm breaking, not just for the women, but also for the men. I can feel that in my core that is also a massive one that I'm right now working on. Then for the women in my ancestral lineage, it's definitely speaking up and speaking the truth. And I also realize that I get dizzy when I say that because there is some saying like, oh yes, this is a massive one. There's has been hundreds upon hundreds of women that weren't allowed to speak their truth and be seen in their truth. I could tap into, I once had that when I did ask, what are the core wounds that you need me to work through? So that was one, the speaking the truth. Then not being able to love who you want to love. That is a super sad one, but it's also a reality. First of all, many women had to get married without wanting to, and I actually think my grandmother might have been one of those. She did never
Wow.
spoke about it, but I she spoke once about a relationship she had or a crush she had when she was like in her early 20s when she was traveling, and about my grandfather she never spoke in that way. So I was also wondering, she was 29 and had a job, and I was also wondering if she actually did not really want to get married and have children, but actually wanted to follow work. But she wasn't allowed to because, yeah, women at that time only had certain jobs that they could do. And so love, work, but with love, it's also some man that stepped up and said, I wasn't allowed to love because homosexuality wasn't something that was accepted hundreds of years ago. So I could see a few of those step up. That was also very sad for me to hear that. And that there was another one. It has to do with the plant magic and the witch wound. Definitely all of this intuitive work, the psychic work. And I think that was quite strong. I remember my grandmother from my father's side, she shared once, or someone shared with me once, that she had a brother who was very soft and super in tune with nature and everything. And I'm like, wow, I kind of feel that spirit of this man quite a lot. So I also think that is a big and massive one, that because from that side of my family, working with nature was always very much, they were farmers, but they always had a gorgeous flower garden. They were eating a lot of herbs and vegetables in general. So I definitely know that there is a lot of knowledge, but most likely they had to split the knowledge between what is accepted, as in, yes, I need to have the knowledge how to grow the vegetables in the right way and what herbs taste well, but not about the healing effect. So that is definitely also something that I could see that I am being asked to break through. Basically, all of these, this is what I am here, what I'm doing already or have been doing. Yeah. So my living is already breaking a lot through those without me having to consciously do a lot. And now that I'm also consciously choosing to work through that, it gets even more deeper and more powerful.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Well, so let's talk a little bit about this workshop that you have prepared for not only the members of the Ancestral Healing Collective, which is my monthly membership. This is also open to other female bodied beings who are curious about ancestral healing and all of the gifts that you offer. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Ancestral Healing Collective, it is a sacred space that I've created for female bodied cycle breakers and cycle starters to alchemize deep ancestral wounds into shifts to higher consciousness, embodied joy, creative potential, and spiritual gifts with the help of pleasure as transformative medicine and also astrology. And we're definitely going to talk some astrology, but I want to give folks a preview of this amazing experience that you're going to lead in August. So just backing up a little bit, part of the membership includes access to a new moon pleasure practice and dance party every month, and then also a guest expert led workshop. And Jennifer has so generously agreed to be our August guest teacher. So I want to know, what was the inspiration for this? And also, what can you tell folks who were thinking about participating how they can best prepare to get the most out of it?
Sure. So first of all, the full title is Sovereign Leadership: How to Stop Copycat Culture. And first of all, how I come up with a workshop like that is because I have realized lately that I'm really good at observing groups, society, individuals, and actually learn a lot through that. So for many years or months or whatever of my life, I've been challenged by those observations because I often see through the mask, and I not just through the mask of the individual, but also through the mask of a whole group and of society as a whole. So in that space, I realized that, and I'm speaking a lot about that on Instagram. So if you are super curious, follow me. Like, it's filled at the moment with all of those topics. I realized that we're often following someone else's path. So this is the perceived right way to do it. We first of all, if I make it very simple, we have our normal system, how most societies in the West especially work upon, which is following the capitalist system. And in that, we have a preconceived idea of what a good life means, which means you gotta do your job, you best have to buy a house, get married, have a dog, right? And have two children, a girl and a boy, something like that. So it feels sometimes like this is a printed manual of this is what your life should look like. And I think we're often talking about that, and this is nothing new. I'm saying that here, and most of you are like, yeah, we've already heard it. But what I've realized is that we have a second system that has been built upon, and that is presented as, oh, this is actually stepping out of this system, then do this, which is, and I'm using stereotypes here, it's often like a more to spiritual communities. It's yoga, it's meditation, it's spirituality, all of the plant ceremonies that are happening out there, especially the more intense plants. And this is interesting because it promises you freedom and it promises you a way to tap out and find your truth. But actually, it's also a manual that is written, not by one person, but by many. And in that, what often happens is that we feel like, okay, there's someone out there that has done all of this already. They know what I need to do. So I'll just follow those steps. I wake up every morning, I meditate, I do yoga, I eat my smoothies and my celery juice and all of that. And if I do that, then I find my truth and I'm living my truth. And then best of all, you see someone who has a business running and you're like, wow, I want to have that. So you copy that one-on-one to your life. What happens is it works for a while quite well. This is how the universe works. But at one end point, either you start feeling really depleted and numb, or you start feeling off, or it's not working anymore because you're actually not living your truth. You're living someone else's truth. And this is a very interesting one. And I also see more and more people start speaking about that. So I'm super happy that finally I'm not the odd one out when I point at things like that, but it's becoming the common knowledge. And I always say, I'm here to awaken people who previously thought they have awakened. This is where I see the importance of it. Because what I understand in a sovereign leadership, it's not just about business. It's about every area of your life, your health, your lifestyle, your work, yes, your spiritual practice, just every area of your life. You become your own leader. You become sovereign in that. And that means a big part of that is following your truth, finding your truth, following that truth. And that's very interesting because I see myself in all of my spaces, workshop, coaching, courses. I'm not here to bring a blueprint to the table that I tell people, this is how you need to do it. But I rather inspire them to start doing the work for themselves so that they are tapping into that intuitive knowledge. And I can see for many years, people were challenged by that. They came into my space and then they're like, what? She's not telling me what to do, but she's telling me just to sit and feel my body. This is boring. Because it feels like the more exhausting work. It's easier. We grew up like that at school as well. We grew up with, this is how we need to do. This is how we do math. This is how we learn a language. So it feels more exhausting to start thinking for yourself. But it's the only way forward. And I'm going to be quite strong on that point. So this is what people will start tapping in. First of all, to open your mind up to that being the reality. Second of all, to start hearing your inner voice, your intuition, to start tapping into your own truth and not just to hear it, but to really start creating steps in your life to start following that. And I mean, the benefits of that, they're going to be immense. Because you don't need to shut yourself down to follow someone else or to fit into kind of a box, but it's more you're going to be stepping into your authenticity every single day. And that's going to challenge people in the beginning. But actually, I think that's the only way how I see that we as humanity got a chance in everything that we do here. Because as long as we don't follow our authenticity and we're suppressing our emotions and we're suppressing our truth and we're suppressing everything below the fear and just pretend that we're like, this is who I am. It's an interesting one. Just when I said that, it's like I can see that in friends and friends of friends, especially in women, when their voice starts changing. If you listen to videos of me previously, a year or two ago, or podcasts, my voice was much higher. And so when you start embodying your truth, our voice becomes deeper. It becomes softer. It's more grounded, and it has more substance to it, if you can say a voice has substance, but it does. So yeah, I hope I broke it down into tangible ideas and steps, even though the concept itself is obviously massive. But yeah, it is important to speak about the massive things to bring it down to the nitty gritty and to say, this is what you're getting. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that this is the topic you decided to cover. I think this is going to be very powerful, and like I said before we even started this conversation, I think that this is very, very powerful medicine, which is so needed right now. So thank you again for putting this together. Besides a notebook and maybe a writing utensil, what should people bring to this workshop?
I always tell everyone to bring a cup of tea.
Hmm.
It's because it's so important to drink in these workshops. It's important to nourish yourself. A quiet space is always important because you don't want to get distracted by anything. And I would say an open mind and this fire of excitement within. Nothing else is needed, honestly, because everything will be transmitted in the moment. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you are interested in participating in Jennifer's workshop, and it is called Sovereign Leadership How to Stop Copycat Culture, you're going to want to go to my website, heatherrebeccawilson.com/sanctuary. So on that page, this is my community page, you can join my free community, which is the Cycle Starters Sanctuary. I have my paid membership, which is the Ancestral Healing Collective. So you will get access to Jennifer's workshop through the paid membership. And then you will also get access to our growing resource library of amazing workshops led by so many wonderful, talented practitioners. And I think there's over 25 workshops there. So once we do this live, if you are a member of the collective, you will get access to Jennifer's workshop, for eternity, basically. You can watch it over and over again. So again, you can go to heatherrebeccawilson.com/sanctuary. Both of my community plans are there. And of course, I will put the link to her sales page for this workshop in the comments below, along with any other links that Jennifer wants me to include. So thank you. I am very, very excited for this. I want to talk some astrology now. Are you ready, my dear?
For sure.
Okay, awesome. So, do you feel comfortable sharing your sun, moon, and rising signs with us?
Yeah, I have a gorgeous combination of things that you're like, what? How are they fitting together? But they do. I'm a Sun Gemini. It's actually my birthday. Now we're recording that. My birthday is in a couple of days in June. And I'm a rising Aries and my
Mhm.
moon is in Pisces. So I have a gorgeous combination of air, fire, and water.
Well, happy early solar return and happy early birthday. I love that. So, let me make sure I have this straight. So, you are a Gemini sun, an Aries rising, and then a Pisces moon. Cool. So you and I have this in common. So I'm an Aries sun and a Gemini rising, but I'm a Virgo moon. So I've got some earth in there. Okay, where do we begin? Since your birthday is coming up, since your solar return is coming up, let's talk about this Gemini sun. So for those of you who are new to astrology, there are 12 signs in the zodiac, and each sign is a spectrum of psycho-spiritual energy with a high expression and a low expression. So Gemini is the element and modality of mutable air, and air is our thoughts, our consciousness, our beliefs, and our communication. When we have a sign um, in a mutable element, it means that it's changeable and adaptable. So the sun in your natal chart is where the sun was the moment you took your first breath. And what it speaks to in terms of your life and your personality is, this is where you shine. This is the special sauce that you mix into everything that you do that makes you stand out from the rest of the 11 other signs. So you are shining as a teacher and you're shining as a communicator. How have you worked with this Gemini sun in your life?
I would say definitely communication to the max. It's
Mhm.
very important. I also have my Venus in Gemini, so that's why for me communication is key in life. I'm always the one in no matter what relationship, friendship, whatever. I need radical honesty and directness here. So that is For sure, a massive one. I also noticed that I can have multiple conversations at the same time and write something on my phone, which people are confused. I get bored sometimes when I just have to listen to someone talking. I'm like, can I please also do that? It's really like the ability of doing multiple things at once, which I think is a gift Geminis most likely only have, which confuses the hell out of every other sign. I would say also the free spirit and the childish manner. I can very easily tap into my inner child and my inner teenager and the youthful look. I'm turning 37. I mean, you can't see it so clearly, but go on my Instagram and look at my photos. People think I'm in my mid 20s or end
Yeah.
20s. That's definitely a thing. Geminis usually look quite youthful for a long time because of their youthful and childish manner, and especially also switching. I always say that with the combination with all of my signs that I just mentioned before, I obviously can switch between emotions quite quickly. So, for example, if I'm angry and frustrated with you, which does happen, I have an Aries rising. The easiest you can do is either make a joke, make me laugh, hug me, distract me, bring me food. It's so easy, like to switch from one one emotion to the other. So the only thing that doesn't work is if you put more wood into the fire, obviously. But I always like to gift that knowledge to people I meet. And if they take it, we have a gorgeous, amazing connection. If they don't take it, then I go into maniac mode very quickly. Yeah, so I think switching, and this is the thing, right? You know it as well. Every star sign has shadow and light side, and I
Yep.
really feel like as a Gemini, this is how we can transmute this switching, this what some people say the two-faced. We can switch it into the light side of like, hey, actually, I'm very adaptable, and I can move, and I have so many interests. Oh my goodness. No matter what you are a nerd in, most likely I could speak to you about it for hours and I would become a nerd in it too. So I think that definitely makes conversation with me in that sense quite easy. I don't like small talk though. Small talk bores me. If someone approaches me and they're like, whether it's like this or what is your working or that, I don't like these boring questions. Most likely I'm already bored and I'm like, okay, we're not going to be friends. But if you approach me and you're asking me, so what has been the most challenging thing you did last week? And I'm like, okay, that's where we start. That's where we go. This is my friend.
I love it. I can so relate. I mean, I told you I'm a Gemini rising and I love talking to people. I am so curious and I will go down rabbit holes, with books, films, YouTube videos, courses. I just love learning and I definitely feel that from you as well. And it's so interesting. Yeah. I think Geminis get a bad rap, right? Mostly know about how the lower expression of Gemini can be very scatterbrained, very flaky, two-faced, and that is true with an unhealed Gemini energy, but the high expression of Gemini is just, you know, an amazing teacher and communicator, whether it's speaking or writing. And what I feel makes us really stand out is the ability to connect things that nobody else thinks are connected, right? We can see the connections between things very easily. And I think we learn quickly and we have a good sense of humor. I think we love to laugh, but I also think your Aries rising is woven into that. I also think your disdain for small talk is very Aries because we're such direct communicators. So I'm an Aries sun, you're an Aries rising. So just to back up a little bit, the rising sign is the vehicle for your divine mission. It's your perception of reality. It's the lens that you see everything out of. And for some people, the rising sign qualities can be in the shadow, whether they're the high expression or the low expression, because a lot of people are just focused on the sun sign, which is how you see yourself. But the rising sign is who you are. It's your aura, it's your energetic signature, and it's what people pick up on when they first meet you. And I completely relate to being bored easily. I think that's a Gemini thing, and I also think that's an Aries thing. It's like I want to get to the point. Let's not do all the small talk. Let's talk about something real. And if you want to say something, just say it. Tell me. Let's just get to the point. So, Aries is the natural born leader. So, it's cardinal fire. Fire represents our passions that spark of intuition, creativity, and inspiration. And Aries is very courageous. And, we love to start things, right? It's like the energy of initiation, it's initiating fire. And you're definitely embodying this. You are definitely a courageous leader. You're speaking your mind very directly, and I really appreciate that about you. So, I mean, what else can you tell us about your Aries rising energy?
Yeah, definitely. The fire is such a powerful element of transmutation.
Hmm.
It's powerful. In the Aries side was actually a side of me that I struggled with for a while because I was
Hmm.
prone to a lot of rage. And I
Hmm.
didn't know how to healthily express that because it's in combination with my Pisces Mars, by the way. We're not going too much into depth, but it gives a little bit of confusion to my rage and anger. And it was a bit a challenging one. And I did a lot of work around that. But I feel like again, there is light and there is shadow sides of this sign. And I do feel the light side is definitely the transmutation, as in you can, whatever shit happens in my life, I can transmute it into gold. And that is often presentable in my work. So whatever area of my work I'm working or I'm speaking about, it's most likely something I have transmuted in my own life or I've been challenged. I've been shut down. I was worried to speak my truth for a long time. And now it's just like, okay, I don't care anymore. I'm going to speak my truth and I don't mind. I'm actually inviting the trolls and the haters in because I know if they're coming, then you have tapped into your full potential. As long as you haven't tapped into your full potential and you're actually still diminishing certain things. And it's scary. It's super scary. But I think that's definitely my Aries side. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to challenge a little bit. I'm going to put on the fires and see what happens because I'm here to start the fires that I see. And I think a big thing with the leadership is I don't like having a boss, not at all. So even like when I often go to festivals and I volunteer there and I realize, my goodness, it's really hard for me to volunteer because I have to follow someone else's orders. And mostly I'm so good at seeing what is needed. And I'm so good at knowing how we can do the same work in half of the time. So that's why I'm a born leader because I'm like, okay, this needs to be done. I delegate it here, 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 and I'm overviewing it and it gets done in like half the time. So that definitely is an interesting one. And I have just an example of that today. So I'm going to a festival soon and I have also filled out a form that I'm volunteering. And then I realized that there is a bus going to the festival on the day when I'm starting my first volunteer shift. So I emailed them and I was like, hey, what about if I'm being responsible in the bus? Like that's a bus that is specially created for the festival. What about if I'm in the bus already checking in people and getting them prepared, giving them all the information? I'm having a list and seeing that everyone's in. So I start my shift already there, which means I'm getting transported to the festival and I'm already working. How smart is that? And I emailed that to them and they loved it. So I created my own job, which is
I love
basically
it.
this is Aries, full on Aries. Yeah.
Totally. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. The other thing that I think most people don't know is that Aries is also very psychic. I know that you have this Pisces moon, which is like a whole other thing that we're going to get into. Pisces, all the water signs, they're very psychic and intuitive. But because Aries is that natural born leader who goes first into unknown territory. We don't have anybody ahead of us to tell us where to go, where not to go. We have to be very, very connected to source. So I do think that plays into the veil being very thin for you. But let's talk about this Pisces moon because this could be very overwhelming for somebody, especially if they don't understand how thin the veil is for Pisces. So, Pisces is one of the three water signs. It's mutable water. And water is our emotions, our feelings, our sentiments. And the moon in Western tropical astrology represents your emotional core, but also your emotional inheritance, which includes ancestral wounds, but also the gifts that they have given you. And what I've also come to understand is that The moon really shows us what we are responsible for giving to ourselves in order to feel at home and grounded and centered in our own energy. So Pisces is really special because when I tune into the energy of mutable water, it's like water without a container. It's water that seeps into everything it touches. And so I think part of the growth journey for anybody who has a strong Pisces presence in their chart is learning how to contain the water, right? How do you create loving boundaries that take care of yourself? Because Pisces feels everything. I mean, it's probably the most multidimensional zodiac sign. This is the energy of the dreamer, of the artist. It's very spiritual. How do you take care of yourself with this Pisces moon? Like, how do you take care of your emotional life?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, an intense one. I mean, I embrace it and I love it. I'm working with whatever is here, but it's definitely an intense one because I just lately spoke about that this weekend. I was assisting at a retreat, and when I'm in a space like that, I am working through all the emotions the participants have. I was responsible for emotional support. And I realized the moment I stepped into this field, I was working, even if I wasn't speaking, even if I wasn't supporting someone, because I was constantly working with people's emotions. And what I realized is that's what I spoke about before as well at one point is I feel all the emotions that people don't speak about, that they might suppress. They're like, okay, I come into this space, I have to behave in this and this way. Therefore, I can't feel the anger, the sadness, the frustration, the insecurity, blah, 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 blah. And then I feel it. So that can be quite intense. What I do in these moments is I often check in, is that mine that I feel? And I usually hear an answer. And it's often, no, it's not yours. And then I'm like, okay, I gladly send it back, but it does come, especially if I'm in a role like that. If I'm facilitating, it's different. Then I'm in like, it feels like in a higher position and things are transmuted much quicker. But being as emotional support, that was part of my work. So I just continuously telling myself, this is not who you are. It's not all yours. I continuously giving myself validation that it's fine, that I'm fine. That was a big one. And I think in general, in my relationships, especially in love relationships and romantic, that's when it comes out the strongest, the emotion. I share with people because I have my Gemini side. I share it and my Aries directly. I'm like, hey, just so you know, this is who I am. This is how I feel. I have a lot of emotions, especially when I'm going through my premenstrual phase. It usually all comes up. For me, this is self-care. I share it with you. And I also give people tips, like don't take me too serious. Give me a hug, like I said before. Tell me how I'm gorgeous and beautiful and that I can do it. And they'll also tell me that life is not ending tomorrow just because you feel it. It's most likely your hormones, things like that. So I give kind of like a manual to this is who I am. Myself personally, as this Pisces moon, which is very different to a Gemini and the Aries, is I need a lot of time for myself to replenish. So this definitely gives me a lot of depth to Gemini and Aries, which could usually be quite extrovert and out there and maybe not so worried. I have a lot of Gemini friends and they are more like that. And I always feel like I'm a bit of weird Gemini. No, I'm not. I just have the depth that the Pisces brings into the whole mixture, which makes me, yes, I need a lot of time by myself at home. I also like to, after a busy work day, sit down, I crochet, and I watch a TV show, and that helps me to downregulate. So it's a lot about that, super simple things, quietness, good music. When I walk through the streets, for example, I always have music on my ears or noise canceling headphones on and don't even listen to music. But that helps me to create a barrier between me and the external world. It's really so I'm not taking in everything. The positive side, like you shared as well, is it's very easy for me to channel things, to speak to plants, to anything. I can speak to basically anything in nature. I can guide amazing meditations. My dream world is a whole movie world by itself. I have prophetic dreams. I do astral planes. I dream about things that don't exist. I dream about traveling to other dimensions. It's all there. And for me, it used to be challenging and now it just becomes something joyful. I do have sometimes dreams where I wake up and I'm like, what was that? But yeah, So a lot of that, a lot of like just being gentle with myself, I would say.
My goodness, you just shared so much wisdom around how to navigate a Pisces moon placement. And what comes through so strongly just in speaking with you is that you really know yourself. I love that about you. You know what works for you, what doesn't, what you like, what you don't like, and yeah, what's good for you and what you need to take care of yourself. So I love that you're modeling this for everyone because I do think that the low expression of Pisces is victimhood, and you are an example of somebody who has really transmuted that. And I don't know if you've been on a journey around that because you also have this very strong Aries rising that is that natural born leader. But that lower expression of Pisces is I can't be a leader. I'm a victim, right? And I give my power away. But it seems to me like you are a very, very healthy Pisces moon. But any other advice you would give to somebody with that placement? I mean, what does the role of water play in your life in terms of maybe emotionally regulating you? Does it play one at all?
I think for me, it's definitely like I need to dedicate time and space for my emotions. It's not always that easy as a self-employed person. It's basically when do I have free time? But that is an important one. I also always work at least with one coach or even multiple ones. That is a massive one. I would say it's definitely also a big thing. If you're a self-employed person, you can't do it by yourself. If you're working in a field like we do, you need some energy worker, you need someone you can talk to. And definitely I also need like body work every now and then. But this helps me, like this feeling of I don't have to do it all by myself, because I think that would break me. Just this feeling of I have to work alone with my emotions and be there for all of my clients and feel everything there is to feel in the collective. Definitely, I would say that, and just be caring, even if the world tells you you got to do more. Listen to yourself, because I think as a Pisces moon, or just maybe also all the Pisces, we need a lot of time to ourselves. So, and I think this is a big one. This has become a big one for myself. But like, I only do one big thing a day. There's people, they're meeting one friend after the other. For me, it's like one person a day. That's it. The rest I'm doing by myself. One meeting, 2 hour meeting maybe, and the rest I can do whatever else that needs to be done. And I think that is a massive one that in general, I would give that to nearly everyone. Can you slow it down? Because maybe I most likely you're actually just racing around, escaping to whatever and not feeling and not being present to you. I would say that is really killing our soul, our inside, our being. That I think some people it's the right thing to do, but for most of us it's not.
My goodness, you have so much embodied wisdom to share. This workshop is going to be amazing. Thank you again so much. So, I have one question that I ask all of my guests at the end of our interview, and I'm going to ask that question to you now. What are the cycles that you are starting in your lineages?
I definitely think radically speaking my truth as an embodied feminine leader. That is definitely one. I'm like, I feel them. They're like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. That is, yeah, let's choose that.
I love it. So succinct. That's very Aries. You just very directly and succinctly communicated that. I love it. Well, all right. This has been amazing. So, Jennifer, if people want to find out more about you, if they want to find out how to work with you, where should they go to learn more?
I have so many spaces, obviously. If you want to see me speak, then I have videos on YouTube. If you want to hear me speak, I have my own podcast running where basically I'm not even interviewing anyone at the moment because I have so much wisdom to share. I don't have space for another person yet. I will later on. If you want quick inspirations, then Instagram is the place to go. Everything is aesthetic and beautiful because it's also one of my big desires and something that I like to bring across. And if you want to go into depth of what my work is, my website that holds the grounded thing of this is where my offers are, this is how you can work with me. Because I think every person needs something else. So choose and then follow me there and then swap over to the next places because most likely you need everything.
I love it. All right. Well, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. I got to learn a lot more about you. I'm so excited for this workshop. I think it's going to be life changing for some people. Thank you for saying yes to being on the show. Thank you for saying yes to creating that experience. Again, Jennifer's workshop will be on August 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And then, Jennifer, when I share this with you, you'll put it in your time zone too. It's called Sovereign Leadership: How to Stop Copycat Culture. So I'll put all of Jennifer's links in the show notes. And yeah, this has been fabulous. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. That was gorgeous and amazing. And I think so many important topics that we tapped into.
Yes, for sure. All right, everybody. We will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Take care. Bye, everybody.